Let's cross to Istanbul and columnist Yavuz Baydar, who is with today's Zaman daily newspaper. Many thanks for being with us here on France 24. Over the years, you've been one of the few voices among Turkish intellectuals who's called for recognition of the Armenian Genocide. What do you think of these competing commemorations that we're witnessing this Thursday and Friday?
Well, it's been very clearly understood now that the Turkish government, particularly President Erdogan and his team, was at best unprepared for the 100th anniversary of the great Armenian tragedy that took place at the final phases of Ottoman Empire. And this unpreparedness and realization, perhaps in a delayed manner, led to perhaps to combine two tragedies, the collapse, the war, World War I, Gallipoli, the battles that led to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, the great defeat, and the immense suffering that was caused to the Ottoman Armenians, annihilation and deportations. So this blending of two sufferings, it seems to be reasoned at the government level, will sort of, in a way, lighten the watering down, lead to the watering down of the magnitude of the event in 1915. And this kind of reasoning, of course, is to be taken at one side, but at the other side, it should be realized that official thinking, the state wisdom, if you will, in Ankara, has been shifting from first complete denial to complete denial based on Armenians killed Turks, to it was a mutual massacre, and now it's developed or evolved into a kind of sharing the pain, condolences, as expressed by Erdogan as Prime Minister last year, 23rd of April, and this year by Davutoglu as well, issuing a written statement sharing the pain.
All right, so we're seeing a slow evolution. Yavuz Baydar, in the column that you penned on Wednesday, you wrote, "Civilian society's clearly surpassed its government, advancing ahead and leaving the government in severe convulsions, a political class unable to tackle the truth of history, held hostage by a single word, genocide." But that political class, is it just the ruling AKP and the president and the prime minister, or is it all of Turkey's political class? Because the opposition is also very nationalist on this point.
Roughly speaking, about two-thirds of the parliament right now has been still in some form of denial of the magnitude of the tragedy of the genocide, and the rest being the pro-Kurdish party HDP. We saw it very clearly when the parliament tried to counter the Pope's the statement, etc., all these resolutions coming, and the HDP, the pro-Kurdish HDP, refused to sign that declaration. But the AKP and the two main opposition parties, Republican CHP and Nationalist MHP, joined this declaration. So the political class is still, let's say, to use a metaphor, living in some form of ice age. And that's what I meant in my article, was that the political class's main bulk has been passed by this civilian awakening, which I mean is a society kept under hypnosis for decades.
We're coming up to a June general election. These are politicians. They know what their voters want.
That's right. That's why these flip-floppy statements coming from the Prime Ministry and also these commemorations sort of moved to Gallipoli. Certainly, domestic and international actors knew that the June 7 elections would somehow affect and influence the statements and rhetoric of Ankara, and this is where we are now. Meanwhile, as I said, I will underline it again, the evolution the mindset is shifting from some sort of admitting of the pain, civilian society, as we will witness in Ankara, Istanbul, and many other cities, Diyarbakir, etc., throughout Turkey tomorrow, has passed the threshold and is openly vocal and also sharing the pain. A lot of publications, such as the great Armenian French historian Raymond Kevorkian's magnum opus, the great book, Armenian Genocide, 2 weeks ago was published in Turkish translation, and fine one. So it's a society in a sort of slow motion evolution, actually.
All right. You know that at Gallipoli there were also French soldiers killed, but on Friday the French president will be in Armenia. He won't be in Turkey. Let me ask you, Yavuz Baydar, at what point does normalization of ties between Turkey and Armenia become more important than not using what you call the G word, genocide?
It's a difficult question, but certainly a very great opportunity, both for Armenia, particularly for Turkey, was in 2008-2009 when the protocols process to open the borders, to normalize the relations and ties between two countries, and also to bring the two peoples closer to a reconciliation, opened up, but was wasted, mainly due to Erdogan's last-minute intervention, bringing in Nagorno-Karabakh problem, occupation into the context. That opportunity unfortunately led to the conditions that the Ankara is finding itself in. If those protocols were ratified by two parliaments, particularly Turkey would have been in a much more comfortable position, much more relaxed position with its society evolving. It didn't happen. Still, the normalization processes stand as options, as German Foreign Minister Steinmeier declared or called for, and Sarkisyan is on the same line, calling for reawakening this protocols process. I think this is one of the most realistic prospects for bringing in two countries into a dialogue situation again, with or without the context of genocide. It's, I think, important to underline that when we talk about civilian societies awakening, getting out from the hypnosis state, none of these societies, particularly civilian societies, should be locked into one word, should be hostages of one word. The main thing is to understand the immense pain caused by the rulers of that time, Ottoman rulers of that time. That is the key point.
Of 100 years ago. Yavuz Baydar of today's Zaman, thank you so much for joining us today.